you would see in main gallery. You know, we made a publication, which is a part of this work. I call it Sunglasses, and they were also part of the project because those stories were written by those women. What I insisted is that when I work with the women organization, it's a collaboration, but then I finalize this as a poster or maybe a print, and they are free either to use it as their own material or the posters in a public space. I naturally was very interested to intervene in a public space for the reason of visibility, right? And here you see part of the project was to place the floor plan of the shelter, which was again in 2002 in danger to be closed because there was no support, financial support by the government. So this was a part of a campaign, you know, to sensibilizirati javnost, to create awareness, or to raise awareness, public awareness of this issue.
Yeah, and this was, yeah, okay, I think we are we on time or?
Okay. I think we can.
Yeah. Lina, I
No, I think we're doing okay. We just, it would be good to talk about the memorials and that as well. But if you want to say a few words about this, I think.
Yeah, this is another, because I started to work on the projects which are long-term projects. You know, there are those collaborations are happening whenever, you know, I'm invited or I have a chance to work dealing with the local context, but also it's a global issue, obviously. You know, the women's rights, violence against women. They're happening all over the place. One thing that I learned from the women's organization was during this 70s, 80s actually, 90s, was that there is a CEDAW. I don't know, how many of you know what CEDAW? You do. Okay. CEDAW is a convention on elimination of any violence against women, discrimination against women. It's a UN treaty. How do you say it? Okay, and it's the only one that really the countries that sign this treaty are obliged to give a report on the women's rights and status of women's rights, including all the issues. And Croatia was one that started this. I mean, so I took this report, and we call it an NGO report, as a material to develop this kind of installation, sculpture, rubbish, you would call it whatever, virus, in each country. Of course, I started in Croatia because at the time after the war, you know, the official report from the government report, obviously, razlikuje se.
It differs.
Completely different on, you know, report by NGOs, the women's NGOs, you know, who are familiar with what's going on here. So it's subversive. It was subversive in its own right, in a way, as a text, as an information. But I was thinking how to make it. Well, subversive is maybe a too strong word, but I was thinking how to develop this collaboration, which I did. For example, you see the image of the site of Istanbul Biennial. But I developed this, obviously, this work first as a collaboration with local Turkish feminist groups, and then we added this report. And then copied simply on a red paper, and they are thrown around. I think, you know, this is a good example of my way of thinking, I mean, working, or, you know, I think it was challenging to do a work which was really, really cheap. I think it was like £5 or something, you know, in pocket. And on the other side, you know, we can talk about how present it was, or not really present, you know. So it's, let's see, all this paper around that look quite strange. Shall we skip this?
I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on the scene for a long time.
We could talk about. I was hoping to move into the work around memorials and remembering.
Yes, I think this is
historical
important work,
nature,
and you can see this is the Calvert installation of the piece. I called it Genic 6. What was the burning issue actually after, you know, during the establishment of New Croatia and New Democratic State, was that the socialist past was completely erased from public consciousness. And to my generation, the women partisan, you know, women who fought, were anti-fascist during the Second World War, during the People's Revolution in Yugoslavia, were appointed national heroines. You know, they were really present. I mean, women and men were equally important figures, historical figures, which we were we knew
aware of.
But with my daughter, you know, who was born in '84, you know, she never heard about it, and that's what intrigued me to make this work. I took 6 of the 5 actually very well-known women from the era, from the socialist time, and I used the, which is very common in my practice. I like to not to produce images, but to appropriate the images which are all around us. So you can see that this is actually I took the existing commercials for, you know, fashion products or other products, and I erased the name and put the name of the real person on the image with some very dry information about the reason that they were either killed, captured as anti-fascist member of the resistance movement. And I wanted to deal, obviously, you know, with the loss of the models. You know, those women, those partisans, were really models for the generation, and they fought for, they died for the society which will be, you know, which will be based on ravnopravnosti,
equality and
justice,
justice,
you know,
yeah.
for just society. And while today, you know, those models were like fashion models, you know, super fashion models. And my target public was the young generation, you know, and unfortunately, you know, supermodels are still the models for the young people. So I wanted to mix these two very different, you know.
And they appeared in magazines.
Yes, because at the time I really didn't think that I really want to enter the commercial circle. I wanted to enter, you know, public space. This is public space, the magazines, right? But most of the commercial women's magazines didn't accept those ads. But they were circulated in Arzim, this magazine, which was one of the very important places where the radical criticism of nationalism, of you know, society in general, and was very popular in a way, although it was almost underground.
Yeah.
But the important thing is that Arzim developed from anti-war magazine. You know, so during the war they started.
So you will see the magazines over there in Calvert if you come. And here you can see them.
And perhaps.
Yeah, those are the works that you won't see at the show. This one we will see at Calvert.
Yes. Do you want to say a few words about Lady Rosa and then, or do you want to talk about?
I just want to say the last image here is the image of my mother. I put it as a heroine because personally I thought, you know, she's my heroine and she deserved to be placed to this official one. And then I developed this piece in 2002 for Documenta 11, taking my mother's life, her life as a starting point to deal with the memory and with myself, but also broader issue of fascism, you know, not only in Nazi Germany, but, you know, the neo-fascist activity which is happening everywhere today. I don't know, we don't have much time to. This is the piece that you could find more information on it in a bookshop. There is a very cheap newspaper on the development of the project, but it also deals with the memory in the sense that when I was invited to Luxembourg and commissioned to do a new public work, I found that in the entrance of the city you will see this monument, which is like a war memorial to fallen soldiers in First World War, which you can see on your right or left on it. And this is a very typical monument, war memorial with the female figure on the top. So this allegory, you know, women being allegory for peace, for resistance, for liberty, for and what I did, first I wanted to make some intervention on the real one, but of course it has such a powerful symbol for Luxembourgers. So when I was invited next time to Luxembourg to participate in one show which deals with the national identity of Luxembourg, I proposed this project, which is like a copy of the real one. But of course, there are differences, and a few things are very different. So you see two of them now here. So my version is pregnant, as you can see, and down on the pillars, instead of this classical text, you know, we thank you, our sons who died for the nation, and blah blah blah. I put this kind of text which deals with the gender. There are three groups of text: French, German, and English. In English, there are the words that relate to women: bitch, whore, Madonna, and virgin. The German words are Kultur, Kitsch, Kapital, and what was the fourth one? Well, four of them. And French one are the ones that are usually you can find on the real memorials, like La Justice, Liberté. What was it? Four of them. Anyway, so what you can see here in this photo, which I like very much, is the public intervention on a monument, on a work. It did steer an incredible public debate in Luxembourg, and you can follow it. And you can really, it would be interesting for you maybe to read all the articles and some text on.
Did the culture minister almost get fired because of?
Yeah, it was really insane because they considered, they understood, I mean the veterans, war veterans, and some other people understood it as totally blasphemic gesture, you know, it's like attacking their idea of resistance and all this. So it's one of the really incredible public projects that really had steered the public debate, and as we said, you know, it came to the parliament, which is very rare with the art projects. And you can see here. And this is the last one. Or maybe you can skip this one.
Yeah, I think perhaps we should.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you. This brings us back to. This is a very international work, very much dealing with an international context, and I just thought perhaps you could say a few words. So this is Figure and Ground, made in 2005, which you can see here. Do you want to just talk a little bit?
I like what you wrote in the catalog. I like your text.
Okay, thank you. It's yeah, I mean it's a work that deals with the public image of terrorists. The work is taking the issue of Face magazine.
Yeah, I was you know, interested in obviously, and I'm very sensitive to guerrilla or resistance movements or fighters for freedom, or you know, we call them terrorists, you know, and I can't accept that. You know, there should be a different word for people who are fighting for you know, freedom, or you know, members of the liberation movement, and so I was interested, and then suddenly I found, and I was collecting these images from the different papers, magazines, or internet, and then I went across this very popular, you know, iconic, you know, Face magazine. I don't know how many of you know of it. And I found these images that, again, you know, I pair them as the same strategy as I used in my early works. And I found this incredible how, but there's lots of layers we can talk about. For example, you know, the fashion models are women, of course, because women as a fighter is a threatening image, you know, it's one of the problematic one, and of course the fighters were men, but the idea of which I think we are dealing here, the idea that every radical image, every image, you know, can be co-opted within this neoliberal, you know, consumerist society. It's quite frightening. But the thing is that some images are really frightening. You know, it's not that everything is allowed. What happened with this work is that, first of all, I was not allowed to show it in the States. Well, there was never openly said that it's controversial. It's like, you know, the artist gets this, like, it's not a good work. So, but the actual thing is that I'm aware, I think, maybe you will not agree with me, but I think those kind of fashion images would never appear and did never appear after 2001, after 9/11.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting with this particular issue of the magazine is this is the issue that came out in September 2001. So the shoot, the photo shoot would have been done in August. It would have hit the newsstands at the beginning.
It wouldn't.
No?
I don't think so. No,
I mean,
after 9/11, I don't think so.
No, it would never. But
Exactly.
this sort of straddles that moment before it became unspeakable and impossible to do that.
Exactly.
So
before and after again, you know,
yeah.
there are some images and some issues that are not so. They are not co-opted, you know. And
yeah.